Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about how these top players are getting these insanely high kill games. I know there's a lot of skepticism out there, so we're going to talk a little bit about that and what is required to actually get a high kill game. We're talking like 40, 50 kills in a match by an individual player. If you enjoyed the video, learned something new, please do me a favor, hit that like button. And if you're brand new, looking to find your way back, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. So recently, there's been a lot of talk about players getting these incredibly high kill games. I know I featured plenty on the channel. We got Mutex, Aiden, Youngstas. There's a lot of people that I've covered that post incredibly high kill games, and there's a lot of trackers out there to see how strong their lobbies are and if they're reverse boosting or they're doing something shady with their router to put them into a quote-unquote bot lobby, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about what it takes to actually drop one of these incredibly high kill games, and then we'll also talk about if these gameplays are legitimate with a little bit of data that I was able to pull up using some of these various trackers. So the first thing we're going to talk about is overall skill set. This is probably like the first and foremost, the most important part if somebody's just trying to get a high kill game. Obviously, there's going to be doubters that are saying there's people cheating, using walls, aimbot, soft wall, hacks, whatever. There's a lot of cheats out there, but let's just say they're not cheating. Let's just assume they're not cheating. What would be possible to do it? And I think for the most part, most of the popular guys, they're just not cheating, because if they were, it would be very obvious and very apparent to track down and see who is using what, because there would be tons of suspicion when you have thousands of people watching you on a daily basis, and then you're posting videos and you're getting 500,000 views. Somebody's going to, point out, hey, there it is, some sus stuff. They are cheating. If that's not the case, then obviously innocent until proven guilty. So one of the most important parts is obviously map knowledge. When you play a battle royale, you have to know how the power positions work. So positioning goes into that, and how to rotate into the zone, how to gatekeep, where you need to be positioned for the final zone so you can end up winning the match, because obviously the longer you're in the match, the more kills you're going to get. So you have to be able to put yourself in a position where you're going to win. I've seen plenty of people get some high kill games and they die with like 30 people left. It's like they could have had at least 5, 10, 15 kills out of that 30, depending on what mode they're playing, and they'd have a huge opportunity to break a phenomenal record, or at least set a personal, set their PR for that specific mode. So map knowledge is huge. Then there's gun skill. There's a lot of different things that go into gun skill. One is obviously they have to have good centering. They have to have good recoil control. Obviously, if they're going to be, we're going to talk about a little bit when it gets to the loadout, but a lot of that goes into it, being able to hit their shots and to be as consistent as possible. A lot of times people don't realize that is a critical key there, because if you're not consistent, if you potato shots on occasion, that means you're going to lose gunfights. And when you're going on a record pace, no matter how good or bad anyone is in the lobby, if you start potatoing shots, you're opening up the door to lose a gunfight. If you're using the most broken meta, which we're going to talk about a little bit with Loadout, you're putting yourself in a statistical advantage that if you're going head to head, as long as you're more skilled than them, you're going to win that gunfight, even if they're using something broken, because you're on an even playing field. Or if they're not, then you have the advantage, right? Movement is incredibly important, especially when you get into these situations where you go 1-on-2 or 2-on-1 or whatever the case is. Being able to reposition, plate up, get back into another position to outflank, outposition, use deady at the appropriate time, dead silence, use stopping power. There's all kinds of different tools at your disposal that you're going to be able to maximize those kills by being as consistent as possible, by using your movement, being able to be hard to hit, so that you land the first shot. So even if you get caught off guard, if you kind of turn, bunny hop, you make yourself a little bit harder target to hit, and you can close that gap because they are incredibly skilled. On top of that, they have to be comfortable playing fast. There's plenty of people that are very good. They're very good, slow pace. They'll get 5 kills a match and they can win, 10 kills a match and they can win. But then if you're really trying to go on a 20 or 30 plus, you gotta be able to put yourself in a position where sometimes you are taking a bad position that kind of puts you at a disadvantage, but you trust your skill enough that you can go ahead and push forward. Or you know that pushing engagement, hey, you know what, this is a bad push, but I'm going to go for it anyways because I need to play this pace to actually set a certain number of kills. If you're not comfortable with that and you don't practice it enough, you're just going to get in those situations and die. Whereas if you just do this at a constant pace where you're fully pushing the action nonstop, you're likely going to get better at those scenarios. That's why you see some people that are very comfortable at handling 3v1 situations. They don't win all of them, but they definitely win more than the average player, which can tend to lack in that particular area. The other part of it is being efficient with their gunfights. This is a very underrated skill that a lot of the top players have. It's closing out a gunfight or an engagement as fast as possible. And this actually frees up a lot of different things. One is you don't have to waste enough ammo. You don't have to waste any plates because you get in, get out of the gunfight immediately, and you take them out. You can move on to the second person without taking any kind of damage. You can close that fight out. Also, the longer your fight is going on, you're at an increased likelihood to get third partied and get shot in the back or something like that. So by getting into an engagement and getting out as fast as possible, you free up some of the opportunities of dying in a gunfight. On top of that, you save a little bit of time to move on to the next engagement, which you're going to have to do the exact same thing. So it's going to be a very repeatable process. And a lot of this comes down to, again, the consistency, being able to win those gunfights, close out engagements, and get in position where you're not wasting time. So that's just a skill set. There's probably more to it, but that's just a base level skill set. Then you have to have the loadout, right? You have to be using meta. You're going to be using the most overpowered, broken stuff. Currently, right now, it's the DMR, Diamati's, or MAC-10. Maybe there's a couple other weapons you can switch out there that are top tier. But in general, you're going to be using the top tier meta. A lot of the gameplays that we've broken down where they go for high kills, they're using the broken meta because everyone else in their lobby is going to be using it. They might as well be stacked, or else they put themselves in a disadvantage. When you're going for a world record or a PR, you got to be using the best stuff to make that as easy as possible, even though it is a challenging task. On top of that, you have to be able to get your loadout as fast as possible. So there's a little bit of luck involved in that, which we'll talk about luck, but you have to be able to get your loadout as fast as possible, meaning that you get there, you get your guns. So whether you're going to run Ghost right off the bat or restock, this will allow you to get into engagements where you're comfortable and taking on people because you already feel comfortable with your gun. A lot of the floor loot weapons are okay to a certain extent, but when you need to be put in these higher end situations, sometimes you don't have the recoil to handle it because it kicks all over the place, or the ammo to take on and down, and then also thirst individual players so they're not able to self-revive. So you need to get the loadouts quick so you can get that pace going. So ideally when you land, you need to land hot, get a couple kills, survive those engagements, get enough cash for a loadout, and then boom, you're off to the races with maybe 5 or 7 kills right off the bat so you can get that tempo moving. But it's not going to happen every time. You have to fail a lot of times to get the success that you're trying to go after. Otherwise, the records would just continue to be broken on a daily basis, which isn't necessarily the case. They still have the phase 1, 138 kills or 136 kills in quads, which I don't think will ever be broken. It was just a lot of luck involved in that, which we'll get to, like I said. Ideally, also, when the beginning looting phase is happening, you want a trophy system of some kind so you could put it on the vehicle and start full pressing individual players with a UAV in the air, because when that happens, you get the bounties, you know where they are, you can come up pretty aggressive and then do some kind of maneuver with the vehicle using your movement to jump out, throw them off, do like a bait and switch, and then be able to take a player, jump back in the vehicle. There's a lot of mobility involved, and also allows you to get around the map as fast as possible. If you're on foot, you're not going to break any world records. It's just not going to happen. Now let's go ahead and get into the lobby. This is the most important thing. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff I was able to figure out from doing this data analysis on individual lobbies. I'm going to show a little bit of my data. It's going to be a little bit confusing at first, but it'll make sense by the time we're all done with it. If you're going for a world record, you need the lobby to be average to below average, ideally. If it is above average, you are not breaking a world record. No matter how good you are, if you have Huskers and Mutex in the same lobby, guess what? Neither of them is breaking a world record, because both of them are going to kill a lot of people. So that subtracts from the amount of kills you need. From the lobby, it's going to die out a lot faster. And then when they go head to head, it's going to be a tough engagement that's going to last a little bit longer than maybe their typical engagement, where you go up against someone who is average or even below average. So you definitely need an easy lobby. No one is contesting this. But there is a lot of debate about of people using, special routers to restrict their region so they get into bot lobbies. There's nothing really conclusive on that for the most part. I know with the routers, you can pick where you're actually located. So for example, let's say Oceania had softer lobbies, right? Not saying they do, but let's say they had softer lobbies. What I could do is set up my server so it links, I'm over in Australia, and what'll happen is I'll connect to those lobbies. And if they're easier, then I'll just do well. But the dead giveaway would be my ping. It would say over 200 ping. If I set it up for Hawaii, I would still have above average ping, maybe 80 to 100 ping, because of where I'm located in the West Coast. If somebody else is doing the same thing and they're trying to get an easy lobby, their ping would be off the charts because it wouldn't be their close area. But most of the top tier gameplay, what you're looking at is like 30 to 50 ping, which is pretty much nothing. There's not really a lot of funny business going on there, but I'll go ahead and show you how the lobbies break down, what it takes to get these gameplays, because it requires a lot of repetition. On top of that, you need the lobby to die slow, which I mentioned, so you can't have another top tier player in there slaying out. They need to die off early if there are any top players in that lobby. Just by coincidence, there's always going to be good and bad players in every lobby. Even in a lower or below average lobby, there's still top tier players. It's just there's less of them, right? So you need them to die off, exit, die in their gulag, whatever, so that you maintain as many players in the lobby, and it's a passive lobby where people just aren't dying off that fast. You also need a good zone. If the zone is a hard shift, a lot of people will die in rotation, so you're not going to get the opportunity to clean them all up. You want it to be as full as possible and away from tall buildings, because tall buildings will slow you down trying to fish out people, and you have to be a little bit more, you know, aware of your surroundings when you're moving through these areas. On top of that, you need teams to buy back other players if you're in modes with more than that players. And jailbreak, if it happens, that would be a very good situation to bring back an extra 8 to 10 players, depending on how many teams were in the lobby. We'll talk a little bit about luck, but I did want to go ahead and get into some of the stats so that you guys can have a better idea of what it takes and if people are doing anything shady. So right here is a lot of data, right? It just looks crazy. The whole point of it here is to kind of look at lobbies as a whole. This is the, Mutex. He has 719 wins. It's going to be very tiny, so I'm not going to go through all of it. I manually tracked everything, and then somebody DM me. This is also Iron's lobby. I went through data looking at what other players put up, how strong their lobby was, and there's a lot of different variables to look at. But what I did want to show off here is what the average looks like between average, below average player, and then these top tier players, and how good or strong these lobbies are. This is one sitting right here for Swag. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So right here, this is Swag, and he played a lot of matches. This is 32 matches in one sitting, and you can see there's various placements. He had a total of 4 wins, which was a 12% win rate. He averaged a total of 9 kills per match because he had some of these bangers that just popped out of nowhere, a 26, a 22, a couple, a 19, a bunch of zeros in here, a 33, a 19, and an 18. And what you're looking at, the highlighted matches right here, these highlighted in yellow, these are matches where he would have had a quote-unquote soft lobby, meaning that for whatever reason, the game decided to gift him an easier lobby. And you can see that in this one, he didn't particularly go off. He had 9 kills, might have died to something random. There was a couple easier lobbies here. He got 13 and 1, might have died to something random. Right here, it was a super soft lobby, but he died off the rip at super. Probably backed out before he went to his gulag. And then he had this absolute banger, which was 33 kills. And you can see that one's highlighted. That was the softest lobby he had. And obviously right here, it shows in the kill count he was able to pop up. Even in this tough lobby, where you can see the kills, the median players' kills, average KD of that lobby, of the entire lobby, he still dropped 19. He's an absolute beast. They went on to win 3 in a row playing with the Sweat Squad. And then the top 10% of the lobby is 2.4. So this is a lot of details here, but out of 32 matches, Swag probably had like 5 matches that I would consider below average. And then everything else was average or above average as far as sweatiness. Then when we go look at Mutex, you can go ahead and look at his matches here. And this is his little run from his world record. He dropped 33 kills, and then he had a bunch of terrible matches, but all of these are like average lobbies. The only ones that dropped the world record and these high kill games is when the lobby was below average. And that's what you'd expect. It's the same thing back in the day when people would do gameplays in regular multiplayer. Instead of reverse boosting, they would play 10 or 12 matches, and then they'd have 2 lobbies that just happen to be soft, and you need to step up and be consistent as possible in those lobbies, because those are going to be your only opportunity to get gameplays. Although it is possible in these other lobbies, it's very unlikely. Also, another trend that I did notice is when going from quads to trios to duos to solos, the KDs of the individual players tended to drop because I think teams that are just sweaty, they stick together and they play in quads, but there's a lot of bad players in quads. So it kind of balances out, but the overall KDs were higher in quads than they were in trios, than they were in duos, than they were in solos. And I'll kind of show you a little bit of how the website works. It's still in alpha, so I'm not going to give you the link, but I'll kind of show you exactly what I did to get this process going. This was my individual matches for spectating randoms that I do on the series. There was only one lobby, maybe two, that I would consider like below average. You know, you're going to probably drop some good kills in there. The other ones, they were average to above average sweaty lobbies. The other thing I did is I looked at a 1 KD player and a 0.6 KD player, and I highlighted the matches that were of that low skill that Mutex happened to get into. And you can see that it's 7 out of the 12 matches. So about 60% of their matches, Mutex could probably drop 30 or 40 kills and break a world record in this particular lobbies, right? And then if we go into a 0.6 account, you can see that it was 100% of the lobbies were soft. 100% of the lobbies had lower KDs. 100% of the lobbies were basically easy, soft lobbies. And this is a proof of skill-based matchmaking. You can see how much it happens in the course of 10 matches here, 11 matches for one player with the 0.6. And this is kind of what you'd expect. But this also kind of explains a little bit why there's scenarios where you get into a match with Mutex. You're like, how the heck did that happen? Well, it's a little bit of luck. He got one average match, maybe two for the entire night, and you happen to be in that average match. If it was below average, maybe he'd get lucky and get like a 1.22 or something like that. I know it's a lot of data, but that's kind of how it shows. Now I'll go ahead and show you a little bit about how the site works. So this is a match I played on Rebirth Island. I'm going to go ahead and put that on my second channel, which is just JGOD Plays, link near the top of the description. Pretty much what you do is you take this number, you plug it into this location, and you just go find KD, and it's going to end up popping up with what my median was. So that means half the lobby had higher than this KD and half the lobby had lower than that KD. So that's the median. So this would be above average because the median KD should be right at 1 or a little bit below 1, depending on the lobby you're in. The average of all players was 1.2. The top 10% of players, so this is about 5 or 6 players given the mode, had a 1.53 KD or above. Over here, the KD rank of my squad was second, and we ended up winning. This guy ended up leaving, but it is what it is. I didn't have a 2.11 in this lobby. There was actually a team that had higher KDs. You can see right here, 2.3 and 3.7. They should have 100% won, but they probably choked somewhere at the end. They had the highest odds of winning. So that's what I ended up using to figure out kind of how strong these lobbies were. So based off of that, you could do that pretty much for any streamer. And if it looks like they're getting too many easy lobbies, then there might be something fishy going on. But as we saw, even with Mutex, he had 2 out of like 13 matches. So that means about 80% of his matches are going to be average to above average, kind of sweaty lobbies. He's going to do his thing. And he got gifted 2, lower average lobbies. Without skill-based matchmaking, he'd probably get easy lobbies, probably about 50 to 60% of the time. And then the other 40% would be a little bit more sweaty. So you can see how skill-based matchmaking is taking effect on his particular gameplay. We saw it with Swags, but 90% of his matches are going to be a little bit tough. And then he's going to have a couple little gifted ones in there that the game, just to keep them playing on the game, because obviously it's engagement-based matchmaking, not necessarily as much skill-based. They just want to keep people, he might have jumped off if he didn't get that 33 bomb or 50 bomb or whatever. So we can kind of see how that plays out. Next thing that we'll talk about is luck. Obviously, once we've gone through all that, we've decided, hey, these players are very good. They have the right loadout. They got it fast. They got a good lobby. It didn't die quick. Now it comes down to luck. And there's a couple things you need to be lucky with. One is there can't be any corner campers with a ghost with a shotgun or whatever. They can't just sneak up on you, because that'll just kill you. If you don't have a gulag, you're not coming back. You got to be able to win your gulag too. So that's where the skill part comes in too, because that's your only buyback if you're playing solo. The other part is people being particularly aggressive towards your vehicle while you're moving around the map. Obviously, if you have your trophy on there, you have your vehicle, that's going to be your main mode of transportation. If it gets blown up and there's not another vehicle nearby, you're kind of screwed. The time and the pace is completely destroyed. So that's where luck is incredibly important. That if you're in a helicopter, for example, that people aren't shooting 3 javelins at you to try and take you down. That is very bad luck. And that could really slow down your pacing, especially depending on the mode type. On top of that, getting third party mid gunfight. You need to get incredibly lucky that you can close out a gunfight quick enough that you're not the one getting shot at. If worst case scenario, the enemy's getting shot at, but they're getting shot at, but not getting kills stolen. That's the other part of it. You can't get any of your kills stolen. When you're in a gunfight and somebody else gets third partied, you can't lose out on those. And you got to be able to take on all those people at once so that you can actually get those kills and that you're not losing any just by having assist or whatever like that. And the other part of it is, no matter what lobby you're in, there's always going to be some skilled players in that lobby, and you got to be a little bit lucky to either be able to get your loadout first so you could take them out in a one-on-one rather easily. First off, you got to be able to win that gunfight when you do get up against them, and the more times you run up against top players, you have a lower and lower likelihood of winning those fights consistently, just because that's how it works. If I went against a 0.2 KD player, I could probably win that gunfight 100 times before I lost the first one. Versus a player similar to my skill, I would probably lose half of those and they would probably lose half of those. But considering a lot of the players that these top players are, they're like 5 and 6 KDs. It's very rare that they go up against someone that is of their skill set. So the only time they lose is pretty much if they're potatoing, or they get a little bit bad luck where they're getting shot in the back, or bad rotation or something like that, where it's just bad, or stream sniper, or whatever the case is. So they have to be able to avoid those people, or consistently be able to get lucky enough where they just in better position, they have their loadout first, or whatever the case is. So that's what it takes. Are people doing shady stuff? I don't know. Based off the data right here, the people that I'm talking about, they're not doing anything shady for their gameplay. They just end up playing a lot, and just through the law of averages, they're eventually going to get a good lobby. The key is, though, if they don't maximize in that shot, they might have to wait another 8 to 10 matches before they get another good lobby. That's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video, learn something new. If you did, please do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Appreciate all the support. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.